afternoon, and welcome to How to Pay for Grad School Before, During, and After. As the title suggests, paying for grad school is something you need to plan for, not only before you start, but it also will need to be managed during graduate school. And lastly, after you've completed your program, it's important to know your repayment and possibly loan forgiveness options. This webinar was developed by the Office of Graduate and Professional Studies in conjunction with the Office of Financial Aid at St. Mary's College. It is designed to be an overview of financial aid available to graduate students, but is not intended to replace information or advice provided directly by the Financial Aid Office. My goal in the next 40 minutes is to demonstrate how you can pay for your graduate studies without risking your financial security in the future. Here are some things to consider. Remember, timing is everything. Apply for financial aid at the same time you are applying for admission to your program of study to allow sufficient time for processing. Normally, that would be 6 to 8 weeks. Be prepared in all aspects of your life: budget, family, health, personal mindset, other life events or obligations. You may need to adjust your lifestyle in terms of spending. You need to realize that no one funding source is going to cover all your costs. So think diversification and give yourself enough time to do the proper research. You almost certainly will need to take out a loan, but there are ways to offset that cost. There are many, There are many possible sources of financial aid in addition to federal loans, though. There are grants, there are assistantships or fellowships, work-study, scholarships, private loans, employer reimbursement, or veterans or dependents of veterans benefits. And by the way, St. Mary's is a yellow ribbon school for vets. Unfortunately, international students are not eligible for federal loans and grants. These students should explore home country-based or government-sponsored scholarships, or school-specific scholarships, or private loans, although those will usually require a U.S. sponsor. There are several different types of assistantships, as you can see from this list. The direct and indirect benefits of an assistantship are fairly obvious. These positions are usually paid in the form of reduced tuition and a stipend for living expenses. Normally, a student will be assigned to a specific department and asked to work a certain number of hours per week or teach a specific number of classes. Besides the experience and funding, the networking opportunities are phenomenal. St. Mary's College offers assistantships or fellowships in the MFA in Creative Writing and the MA in Kinesiology programs. Details can be found on their program websites. In terms of the types and sources of scholarships, here are a few. School-specific or program-specific. For example, here at St. Mary's, the School of Education, the Graduate School of Business, the MFA in Creative Writing, the MA in Kinesiology, and the MFA in Dance all offer partial scholarships for incoming or current students. Details can be found on their program websites. Professional associations or organizations in your field of study. For example, the California Association of School Counselors or the National Association of School Psychologists. The American Association of University Women. These are just a few examples. Disadvantaged categories. Minorities. For example, the Hispanic Association of Schools and Colleges. Single mothers, the disabled, veterans, or women returning to the workforce. The SMC library provides access to databases and catalogs for students interested in finding assistance with grants, scholarships, subsidies, government aid, and loans. Recently, I came across a resource that is free and open to everyone at UCLA. It's called the Grapes database. That's Grapes database, and it has over 500 listings of potential, depending on the field of study, scholarships, fellowships, etc. I should qualify here and indicate that you'll find a lot more scholarships in STEM-related fields of study, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. You can search the web for scholarships too. FastWeb, Peterson, Student Scholarship Search, gradcu.com are some of the examples of websites in addition to Grapes, which I just mentioned. You should research the scholarship opportunities and note the application deadlines and award timeframes. And just remember, you can apply for scholarships, but being awarded one is not a given. So my advice to students or prospective students is to make sure you have applied for a loan sufficient to cover your needs. Then if you were awarded a scholarship, you can always decline a disbursement for a particular term. Everyone should complete the FAFSA. That stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. This is in case your financial circumstances change mid-year. Even if you don't intend to take out a loan, some need-based scholarships will require you to complete a FAFSA. The School of Education here at St. Mary's is an example. They want anybody applying for their scholarships to complete a FAFSA. A new FAFSA must be submitted at the beginning of every calendar year. But remember, you are funded based on the courses taken during the academic year, which runs July 1st through June 30th. You must be at least half-time to qualify for a loan. Submitting the FAFSA will automatically initiate the loan process for you. So if you decide that you don't want a loan ultimately, please let the financial aid office know that. And just a little tip here, the correct URL to access FAFSA is www.fafsa.ed.gov. There is also a FAFSA.com, but that's not the same thing, and they are a student financial services company, and most likely they would charge you to fill out this form, which is already free at the government website. In addition, you will need to ultimately go to studentloans.gov to complete graduate entrance counseling and to execute your master promissory note for the direct loan. There are two types of student loans, unsubsidized direct and the Graduate Plus loan. The direct loan maximum is $138,500. There is no maximum for Grad Plus. However, you are not eligible for Grad Plus if you have adverse credit history like a bankruptcy, late payer status, defaulting on a loan, or excessive credit card debt. You need to apply only once at the beginning of your program for the direct loan, but you must reapply every year for Grad Plus. And as I said earlier, you can always decline a disbursement during a specific term if you get a scholarship. And for those of you that coming to St. Mary's who might be attending school during the Jan term, which is a one-month intensive term, you need to know that there's no regular disbursement of financial aid at that time. So you need to arrange for those funds to cover the courses that you're taking during Jan term to be added to the preceding fall term disbursement or the following spring term disbursement. Talk to our business office directly to make sure they understand the situation. Don't assume. We're a small school and our business office is very approachable. All you have to do is explain your situation, and most likely you can avoid a late fee. Here's an example of a direct loan repayment. Interest rate is 6.21, and this is the standard repayment for a direct loan, which is the default for anyone coming out of deferment. And remember, if you don't indicate otherwise, you will automatically be placed in the standard repayment program. Now here's an example of a Grad Plus loan repayment. Notice that the interest rate is slightly higher. Again, this particular loan does consider your credit history. And these are what the payments look like and the interest paid. Because your student loans can substantially affect your overall credit and vice versa, I think it's worth the time to spend a few moments on financial literacy. You may have heard of the term FICO, which stands for Fair, Isaac, and Company. This is the most common score type. Your FICO score takes into consideration how you are paying on your accounts, how much money you currently owe, how long your accounts have been open, what different types of credit you use, how much credit you use compared to the amount of credit you have available, and how often and how recently you have applied for credit. So for those of you that have multiple credit cards, even if you're not using some of the credit cards, that still will could affect your FICO score because it represents credit that you could exercise if you chose to. If you don't intend to use a credit card, the best thing to do is close it, not just cut it up or stick it away in hiding. Better to close the account. That will have a better impact on your FICO score. Your FICO score does not evaluate your age, race, religion, sex, marital status, not your occupation, salary, or employment history. It doesn't consider where you live, child family support obligations, rental agreements, or other student loans in deferment. If you're denied credit for any reason, well, if you're denied credit, you can actually ask the lender for score reasons. And this is really helpful because understanding those reasons can help you improve your FICO score over time. You can improve credit behavior by making loan credit payments on time, reducing open lines of credit, especially newer credit, keeping balances low, or better yet, paying in full monthly. So you can correct inaccurate information, and you can keep that information updated and dispute mistakes. I recently had a situation where someone had made a data entry error and was queried about an address that I had never lived at, and I was able to correct that information. So you can improve, but you cannot repair poor credit. Bad credit stays with you for 10 years, so any sort of credit repair service out there that claims to be able to fix your credit is really just a waste of money. You can find out your total loan debt in detail by going to the National Student Loan Data System. Repayment on your loans usually begins 6 months after graduation, and there are several different options you can look into. Standard repayment, which is the default plan, income-based repayment, or otherwise known as IBR, pay-as-you-earn repayment, which is PYER, and income contingent repayment, known as ICR. Let me just mention here that in my presentation you're seeing a number of websites which can be really useful tools for you to use. You will get a follow-up email tomorrow with all these websites listed in the email so that you don't have to worry about copying them down quickly during the presentation. In terms of repaying your student loan, here's some tips. Set up the payments automatically through your bank account, and this should dramatically reduce the chances of a late or missing check. Again, the standard repayment period for student loans is 10 years. You use the National Student Loan Data System to keep track of your federal student loans. Consider applying for income-based repayment, which allows your monthly payments to be capped at 15% of your discretionary income. Stay current. The Project on Student Debt and the National Consumer Law Center's Student Loan Borrower Assistance Project have the latest and greatest on student loan developments. And if you end up in a dispute with your lender, the Federal Student Aid Ombudsman may be able to help resolve the problem. So what are your options for postponing repayment? For private loans, you could be in default as soon as you miss a payment. Private lenders' collection powers are not as strong, but this is still debt that you will owe. If you default on either your private or federal loans, which usually you're considered delinquent after 9 months, it may affect your credit and could prevent you from securing a credit card, a mortgage, an apartment, or even a job. Rather than missing payments, a deferment can be requested. This is a temporary suspension of payments. And you can request a deferment if you're re-enrolling in school, you are unemployed, you face economic hardship, or due to disability, certain military service, or following active duty. Another option is forbearance. Forbearances are temporary postponements or reductions because of financial hardship. However, in both cases, deferment and forbearance, interest continues to accrue on your loan. Now there are some options that didn't exist prior to 2000. Income-driven repayment plans are now available. These are designed for those in repayment who may be experiencing partial economic hardship. And this is defined as having outstanding federal student loan debt higher than annual income or representing a significant portion of annual income. These alternate options for repayment, you must apply for these. So income-driven repayment, as I say, IBR, pay-as-you-earn, and income contingent repayment. IBR, using an online tool at studentloans.gov, IBR participants must transfer their tax information annually to confirm that they are still eligible, otherwise a higher payment could result. So this is really important. I attended a conference call recently where they were talking about people who had applied for IBR in the first year and qualified, but then neglected to apply in subsequent years. So this is something that you can, each year you have to reaffirm that you qualify. Pay-as-you-earn repayment is a graduated payment based on your earnings and how they might increase over time. And income contingent repayment extends the repayment over time, but also extends the interest paid. Here's an example just to give you an idea of monthly payments under income-driven repayment. So the adjusted gross income is in the far left column, and then based on that adjusted gross income, these would be your IBR or pay-as-you-earn payments monthly. And this is regardless of the loan amount because it's based on a percentage of your income. So as you can see, the idea here is to make your monthly payments more affordable. Now, income-based repayment coupled with public service loan forgiveness is very powerful. Income-based repayment and public service loan forgiveness. If you work after you complete your program of study in a school, a hospital, the military, government, really anything in the nonprofit sector, you will qualify for public service loan forgiveness. There's one disclaimer, however, and that is that any loan amount forgiven under a forgiveness plan could be viewed as untaxed income in the future. There is another loan forgiveness plan provided by the National Health Service Corps. This is for mental or behavioral health clinicians. So any of students that are going into St. Mary's Marriage Family Therapy practice program or a licensed clinical counselor program, they would be potentially could apply for this loan repayment plan, which gives you up to $50,000 to repay your student loans with a 2-year commitment to working in an approved NHSC site, which is normally located in a high-need, underserved area in the United States. This particular loan forgiveness program is at the beginning of service, so not at the end, as in public service loan forgiveness, so the loans obviously get paid down more quickly. For those going into the teaching profession, students may apply for the TEACH grant if they are enrolled in a state-approved teacher preparation program. Obviously, St. Mary's falls into that classification, and they agree to teach a high-need subject area like math, science, foreign language, and special education for 4 years in a low-income or low-performing school. If you do not complete the service commitment, however, this up to $4,000 grant will turn into a loan. Highly qualified credentialed teachers who have a federal Stafford or direct loan and have been employed as a full-time teacher for 5 complete and consecutive academic years in a Title I, which normally means a low-income or low-performing school, are eligible for loan forgiveness. Benefits range from $5,000 to $17,000 depending on the school and the subjects taught. And eligible schools are listed in the annual directory of designated low-income schools for teacher cancellation benefits, which you can find on the website for this forgiveness program. There's potential to double dip here in public service loan forgiveness and this teacher forgiveness program as well. Again, this is more. This one is more immediate than the public service loan forgiveness, which you're looking at 10 years out. There are also some tax credits available. A maximum annual tax credit of, or a lifetime learning credit, up to $2,000 per tax return for each year you pay for college. Your modified adjusted gross income cannot exceed $63,000 for a single tax filer or $127,000 for those who are married and filing jointly. Qualified education expenses do not include insurance, medical expenses, room and board, transportation, or similar personal living or family expenses. So pretty much this is for tuition and books. There is also an American Opportunity Tax Credit. This one is a little bit more restrictive in terms of who can qualify for this. This would be for graduate students who basically complete their undergraduate studies and begin their graduate studies in the same year, because this tax credit is only for the first 4 years of higher ed. So in that year where you're straddling undergraduate and graduate school, you might be able to qualify for this slightly higher tax credit of $2,500. But in any case, you can only qualify for one or the other, not both. So just to summarize, in terms of a plan, develop one. Develop a funding plan. Where are you going to get your funds to cover your education? Think about this in advance. Explore, as I said earlier, the options of scholarships or grants or assistantships or work study. St. Mary's also has work study for graduate students. And kind of scope out how you're going to pay for your graduate studies. And also plan to apply for a loan sufficient to cover your needs. Get organized and keep records. You can see with these loan forgiveness and income-based repayment plans and loan forgiveness options, you're going to be managing this for some period of time. So you really need to be organized and keep good records. develop or modify your budget as needed. So just because you develop a funding plan up front, as you're going through your studies and over time, modify it to make sure that it is, meeting your needs. Follow developments and changes in the law. Studentaid.ed.gov or equaljusticeworks.org are some examples of websites. There is, dealing with the Congress and with the President, there are oftentimes some of these things are being reviewed on a yearly basis. We have a presidential election coming up. There may be changes. I can't guarantee one thing, that there won't be. So it's really up to you to have, to keep track of these things, and also to be active. There are ways that you can, petition your representatives in Congress or in the Senate to advocate for you as a student borrower. And then review your plan regularly and make sure you're on track. So with that, I'm providing you with my direct contact information, my email address here at St. Mary's, and my phone number. I'm more than happy to talk with you by phone or in person if you care to come to Philippi Academic Hall, which is where my office is located. I'm happy to go over this with you. I am what I would call a first level contact for you in terms of financial aid questions. When you get down to the nitty-gritty, you will need to talk to somebody in the financial aid office. So I've also provided you with their email and phone number. And they're usually assigned students based on your last name. So there are, I believe, 4 advisors there, and they have broken up the alphabet, and so they handle students as they fall into a certain range in the alphabet. So you can set up an appointment with them as well. But hopefully this session has been enough to get you launched and sort of give you a little bit of the landscape, and you feel more comfortable even as you were to go in and sit down with financial aid to discuss these things further. So I am available to answer some questions. So it looks like we have one question, so I'll read these for the group and then attempt to answer them for everyone. So a question from, if I taught in a Title I school previously, can I apply for the teacher loan forgiveness retroactively? I think you could go to the to that website, and they have an FAQ. They have frequently asked questions that may be answered. I would think that you could do that as long as you can substantiate the fact that you were teaching at Title I school for the 5-year period. Remember, this is teaching as a credentialed teacher, not as a substitute, not as an intern teacher, but actually as a credentialed teacher. That's what would qualify you. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see if I have any other questions here. I've been making payments under the Public Service Loan Forgiveness program, but will be returning to get my MBA. Will these new loans be forgiven, or will my 120 payments reset? Let me think about that. You've been paying on, well, your new loans will reset. I think that's the bottom line. Any new loans that you take out will reset, unless you were to consolidate, and then you probably, everything would reset. So you may want to, not consolidate, and I assume you'll be going to school and working, so you still be continuing with your employment. As long as you'll be working full time, then that shouldn't be a problem. But the new loans would be separate from the loans that you have been paying on. Again, some of these things I would recommend that you go to the website and see if they have frequently asked questions, because some of these are a little bit, sort of sort of your particular situation. Another question is, I've been accepted into the MS FAME program. how do federal loans limits work at St. Mary's? Do I get $20,500 for the summer, autumn, and winter, spring quarters? So the academic year begins summer. The summer quarter is the beginning of the academic year. So you will get $20,500 for summer through spring. So it's the academic year is 2015, 2016. So you get $20,500 applying as a graduate student. Then if you need additional funds, you can apply for the Grad Plus loan that I talked about. And that will make up the difference between the $20,500 and the cost to attend school. You can also include your books, and if you, for some reason, you weren't able to work, they will fund your living expenses. They have a formula with Grad Plus that they use, but you may not want to do that because it's always good to borrow less than borrow more. How do we find out more about assistantships? Now, the specific programs that I mentioned that have assistantships are kinesiology, the MA in kinesiology, and the MFA in creative writing. To my knowledge, our other graduate programs do not have assistantships at this time. So you would go to those websites, and you will find information about them on there, and you can apply for those. Okay, I think that is my last question. I think I covered everybody's questions. I hope I did. Let me just scroll through these real quickly. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think that are all the questions for today. Again, I'm more than happy to take your phone call at another time. We can set up a time to speak, or we can set up a time for you to come in. Please feel free to contact me. I hope that you found this beneficial, and I wish you all a good evening and good luck in pursuing your graduate studies, especially, I hope, at St. Mary's College. Bye for now.